Is this the best Albedo statue on the market? No. No, it's not. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to Figure Friday. I'm Dylan, and today we're going to be talking about Freeing's Albedo from Overlord. This is a little bit different of a statue than what we're used to. We have so far reviewed a lot of my resin statues, but this is actually a licensed PVC statue. Some of the little differences: resin's usually heavier, unlicensed, kind of garage kit style. PVC or any other plastic that you might see these being made of is what's more common in the actual licensed statues. Now, this statue was released in February of 2023, so it's pretty new, not super recent, but you know, within the last year or so. She measures 30 centimeters tall and 44 centimeters wide, and since she is made of PVC, it's way lighter than any of the resin statues, which is nice because that means you can have figures like this in shelves like Detolfs or glass shelves, where if you put a resin statue on there, it's for sure gonna break. Don't ever do that, that's really dangerous. You wanna make sure you have a really solid stand for the resins to go on. But these guys, you can pack on the Detolfs pretty well. Detolfs pretty well. Originally, she retailed for $275, and in this case, it's kind of interesting. This is one of the rare occurrences where in the aftermarket, she actually doesn't have a huge resale value. Her resale value is like in the 300s-ish, so really almost exactly the same as buying her new. That happens when companies like Freeing or other licensed companies re-release statues. That makes the edition sizes larger. Sometimes, in this case, they re-release different colors, so there's a black version that has come out as well, and the value just isn't skyrocketing, which it's okay. With the details out of the way, let's jump right into reviewing the pose for this statue. I keep saying statue, it's a figure. Is there a difference? I guess resins are statues, PVC is figures, but at the same time, who cares? Now, this is a bit of a unique pose for the Freeing bunnies. Albedo is actually leaning on the ground with one hand, and those big wings are wrapped around her, but she also doesn't have a base, which is kind of an interesting thought. They actually use her hair that's hanging down behind her as a semi sort of base to stabilize her. So you've got obviously the body laying on the ground, the hair, and these two little small wing stands that help hold those wings off the ground a little bit. Moving along to the sculpt. Now, the first thing you notice about this figure is she has some massive wings. They wrap around her whole body and they're pretty detailed. There's a lot of individual feathers, and they do a good job with the PVC getting a lot of detail in there while still maintaining a relative light weight. Now, the only problem with these wings is because they stretch so far out, they are, and being plastic, gonna have a tendency to sag over time. That's why they give you those little wing stands. I would recommend using them. You could technically use it without it and they'll just kind of droop to the floor, but it's putting a lot of strain on it, and I would much rather have my figures last and be correct and be how they're supposed to be. So just throw those wing stands in there and it'll look pretty solid. In regards to her actual proportions, I think her overall body looks pretty good. I think the wings are a good touch. I think her head size is pretty solid, but I do not like the bodysuit. This is a bit of a new one for this channel as well, but this is actually the first cast-off figure that we are reviewing on the channel. Obviously, if you're familiar with cast-off, it just means removable pieces of clothing. Her bodysuit, the top comes off. I don't know why they would do the cast-off on this figure. Albedo is from an anime that isn't showing anything. She's not like lewd in the anime, so I don't know why you would have that as an option in the figure. I just am not a fan. All the other bunnies that I have the suit sculpted, and it just looks way better in my opinion. Now, one of the cool standout features of all the Freeing bunnies is they do come with real fishnet thigh highs. So this is actually a fabric on top of the figure that's sewn on back, and it looks really nice. They do an excellent job like hugging the leg, and there's not any gaps or any standoff. They're really tight on there as well. And that's kind of why you buy these, is the mixed use, the mixed media of PVC and fabric is very cool on these figures. Lastly, let's talk about the sculpt for the face. I don't really like it that much. I think it's something about her face is maybe too narrow, or the position that her eyes are in. I just don't think it looks like Albedo that much, which is kind of a bummer, and that's what you want in a statue. You want the statue to look like the character. And for me, it's like 75–80% there. It's generally Albedo, but it's not good enough to where it should be at a 1/4 scale figure, and the price that you pay, it should look just like her. And it just doesn't. Now, if we take a look at the paint for this statue, if you're familiar with freeing bunnies before, then you know that they do a really good job with simple painting, especially in the skin area. The skin is all very soft looking and it's got like a matte texture. That is definitely the standout piece for this. They always do an excellent job on skin painting for all of these figures. I think it shows up really well on the PVC as well, as opposed to on resin. I think it's a little bit tougher to get that skin texture on resin, but on the PVC, I think it looks great. The feathers and the hair both have a really nice deep purple color to them. The feathers are actually a little bit darker, but they almost have like a pearlescent sheen on it. If you get it in the right light, it kind of reflects a little bit more pearl or rainbow-esque. The ears, the bodysuit, and the shoes are all super glossy, and they contrast really well to the skin color. You can tell that it's meant to be like a leather texture bodysuit, and it looks really good. I guess latex is kind of the idea there, but it's standout. It's nice and it looks really sharp. Lastly, let's take a look at the eyes on this figure. If you do have any other anime figures that are made from PVC, then you generally have decals for eyes, which is what we're looking at here. I don't have a problem with decals. They're very common when it comes to the anime-esque heads and anime-esque style, just like freeing does. Freeing always does decals for all of the bunnies. I think it looks pretty good for the kind of design that we're going for here. Now, as we know, no figure is perfect, so let's talk about some of my dislikes. As I said before, I'm not a huge fan of this figure. I think something about the face and the proportions just really don't do it for me. If I'm gonna gripe on the statue a little bit more, I also don't really love the lack of base. I always love a clear plastic base for these bunny figures. And then also the little wing stands. I hate little tiny stands that hold up pieces that stick off. If you can't build it to hold the piece or hold the wing, then pick a different pose. In my opinion, some are cool and I get it. You don't want those things to sag over time. And the pose is really awesome. In this case, the wrapping wings are cool, but they should just be touching the ground because that would make way more sense and you don't have to have these tiny little wing pegs to hold them up. Either that or engineer a different way that the wings actually sit on the body. Just small little nitpicks. Now let's go over my wish list for this figure. Kind of the same thing as the dislikes. I would love a better face sculpt. I would love the bodysuit to not be cast off, just make it a regular bodysuit and fix those proportions. And honestly, if those two things were fixed, I wouldn't have a problem with this statue at all. I would also much prefer a standing pose with a base, like I talked about before. Just pick a cool standing pose, reduce the footprint by a lot, and have the wings maybe hang down towards the side, just like they do in the show. There you go, problem solved. All right, now this statue may not be for me, but it might be for you. And if you love it, that's awesome. I'm happy for you. Not everybody has the same opinion on these things, so if this is your favorite statue ever made, then more power to you. I love that. With that said, here's the money shot for freeing Albedo. Well, they can't all be winners. I've definitely bought statues before that I don't like, and I will definitely be buying more in the future that I don't like as well. That's just kind of the name of the game sometimes. But tell me what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you like this figure? If you do, let me know in the comments below. I would love to talk about it and kind of hear your thoughts as well. If you hate it, you can let me know as well. We might be on the exact same page. If you guys are enjoying these videos, I would appreciate you liking this video down below. Consider subscribing, and I will see you all in the next Figure Friday.